Behold, trapped in a hellscape of their own invention, socially unaware old white men bound by the pretense of being fake lawyers yet knowing no law, no exquisite Latin terminology, they are inexplicably compelled to quibble over minutia, squabble over triflings, and bicker like those who value their backyards far too highly without even knowing the difference between an easement and an alleyway. At this very moment, you have entered the heart of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. Let's get started.
Welcome to another edition of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker with your hosts, Matt, I was going to say Grendon. Like combining
Brendan,
names.
like Grindle.
And Brendory.
So with Matt, Greg, and Brendan here on this September 1st, 2021. Labor Day is coming up. And we have an extra special guest today in the form of John Velasco, who is, as one piece of promotional material I read, was considered one of the greatest music publishers to have ever lived. And we're going to totally get very involved with his history for at least a brief period of time. But before we get too much into it, we do have our fake sponsor that is supporting the show today. So I'll be reading the fake sponsor for today. So
We got to pay our fake bills.
That's right. Our fake bills are handled from our fake sponsor, and this is our fake sponsor's promotional piece. Family, friends, laughter. In good times when laughing makes you thirsty, you want something delicious and refreshing. In these heartwarming moments, the thirst that brings us together is the thirst for a case of COVID, cola. If you're feeling a little blue or even red, 2 to 14 days after quenching your thirst with COVID cola, your life will have new meaning when fever and chills arrive. Enjoy new muscle aches and fatigue. Your family will be right by your side as you appreciate nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting. COVID Cola is made with fresh cola nuts, vanilla, a hint of belligerence, and a healthy twist of denial. You deserve only the best when getting ice-cold, hard facts from conspiracy kooks, right-wing pundits, and Joe the drunk at your neighborhood bar. As we all know, vaccines don't work, and sickness is a theory. And for you fatties, get Diet COVID Cola with Delta variant sweetener. Your pounds will melt away with an extended stay at your personal suite in your local intensive care unit. Drink COVID Cola. When whistling past the graveyard, your whistle should be wet, because that's all you experience when your senses of smell and taste disappear. All right, so there's our sponsor for today.
Too soon, man. Too soon.
Too soon. That was for Brendan, who just got over COVID. So.
Oh God. Yeah, I don't actually want to talk about it. But well done.
Since you gave me extra symptoms today, I wish I had known before. I would have added them onto this particular sponsor. So anyway, enough of this silliness. Onward and upward to John Velasco, who signed, yes, Black Sabbath, Abba, I think Davy Jones from the Monkees, and so many other people. And for me, I guess my biggest interest, because I've always wondered, how do you know you've got a hit band in front of you when you sign them?
You got no clue. No, what I've always, one, I've been incredibly lucky through the years. And two, if I like it, I stick with it. And sometimes, even with a song, I'll have a song from 10 years or further, which I'll always remember. And at some point I can use it. So it's really, a lot of it's personal taste. And obviously I mess up quite a few times by missing things. Many years ago, this guy brought the girl into my office called Styrene, and she was wearing a garbage bag. And I just didn't see it. And within a month, when she signed to someone else, she was number one. So,
From X-Ray Specs, polystyrene?
Polystyrene and X-ray, yeah, you actually know it. So,
wow.
Yes, Greg and Brendan probably know her very well.
That was a few years ago. Alton Stewart was the guy that managed her. Look at that, I can remember it. But it was like, so you do, it's funny. I just love songs. And, the whole thing is, yes, I'm a music publisher. I'm nowhere near the best music publisher in the world. If you like, I got one of the luckiest music publishers in the world. Because when I started, I didn't even know. I was making incredible decisions, which I didn't know were great decisions, totally by accident. It's it's wonderful because I was like thrown in the deep end.
Well, it's my understanding that your career actually started. You were in the theater. Were you in live theater, or were you looking to get
No, I
into
was
like
live
films?
theatre.
Okay.
I did what they call weekly rep, which is the best way to learn. So that every week you do a different play. And I got lucky enough within a couple of jobs, I was stage manager at Drury Lane, which is the biggest theatre in England. And Delfont, who owned it, Lord Delfont, one day just said, "John, you're going to be with us forever." And that was the worst thing he could ever say, because I looked around at these old guys and thought, no, I'm not gonna...
Get me out of here.
I'm going to die from the lead and the grease paint. I don't want to be here.
Yeah, so again, I made a lucky choice. I went to the PR company, which was Cowan's, and asked if they needed a PR executive. And they said, "We do." And I said, "How about me?" And they took me on. And I just, again, my clients were Peter Sellers, Sammy Davis Jr., Barbara Streisand, Joan and Jackie Collins. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Wait,
And
Peter Sellers was your personal client?
Yeah, well, personal. Yeah, I was within with the company I was looking after him. It was, I mean, great guy, hilarious. But suddenly I was thrown into this world, and I realized that I hated being on stage. I hate doing anything where I'm in the front of. And I realized I could talk really well for other people. And from that, one day I got a call from LA with a young songwriter coming to town. "Can you take care of him? And he's got no money, just show him around and have fun." So I said, "Sure." And he and I became friends, and Jimmy Webb and I and his dad and a girl called Patty set up Canopy.
So Jimmy Webb, isn't that the guy who did songs for Glenn Campbell?
Almost everywhere. In the first year, we had so many hits. I was a genius, and I had no.
So you were a genius unbeknownst to yourself.
Oh, yeah, well, you think it was up and away by the time I get to finish. Galveston, Richard Lyman, MacArthur Park with Richard Harris. I mean, it was just rolling.
Oh, no, you're responsible for MacArthur Park. The cake was in the rain. What the hell?
You sometimes feel guilty about that? Wake up in a cold sweat. What have I done?
There you go. Oh, it was another personal story. It was like, no, it was hilarious. And I made some real great decisions by accident, like seriously. So we were just turning things over, and then and Jimmy is still he's a wonderful writer, but I was really getting into I loved the business, and I was having to turn down people that wanted to hire me or get involved with them.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm a little confused about so you took him on a tour of town, Jimmy Webb, and then somehow you wound up working with him doing what exactly did you do?
Music publishing.
So were you publishing him, or I guess I'm missing the stepping point there.
That's all it was.
Got it.
I didn't know what publishing was even. It was just, hey, let's do a company, and someone's going to look after my music and my songs, and so.
So he liked you because you gave him a tour of London and said, take care of my music.
Was involved, but yes. A great time. We were both young, and it was funny. And obviously, if I'd known at the time, the money could never stop, which of course is ridiculous, but it was those days in that. And it was a really great grounding because, I was between LA and London, and I was really in my early 20s.
What was your first ridiculous purchase with all the money that you got back then? What was the thing that you bought? You went, I shouldn't have bought this thing.
No, there's nothing I shouldn't have bought. Well, maybe. No, I actually had the first year of the Jag X J-6 in 1968. And I loved it, but then a friend of mine had a Bentley for sale. And it was an S2 Bentley, the old one with the double headlights. It's a classic. Anyway, I drove it for about 6 months. I loved it to death. And everyone kept saying, "You're too young to have a car like that." And I love cars. So I sold it. And the worst thing I ever did. And then the next year, I heard the guy was going to sell it. And I rushed out and I went, "I got to buy the car back." He said, "You can't afford it." And I said, "What do you mean?" He went, "It was the last of the classics. That's worth like 5 or 6 times what I'd sold it for."
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
So I do bad deals as well.
Oh,
thinking about it, that was the one I regret.
That was the time you weren't lucky, obviously.
Well, maybe. Who knows what happened to the car a week later?
That's true.
What artist, John, would you say surprised you the most? Will you sign someone you were like, yeah, this person might have a small career, it's worth my time, and then they just blew up beyond your expectations? Did that ever happen?
The biggest one, the others were creeping along and could see what was going to. Abba was the one. I mean, basically, I was friends with Stig Anderson when he had a publishing deal with him, and Abba came along. They played me Waterloo. I loved it. They were in the Eurovision Song Contest with people over here. I'm not sure what it is, but you guys probably know. It's if you get to the Eurovision Song Contest and make a hit, your hits all over Europe. And Europe, Israel, it goes very wide. And this is a contest where every country has heats and they put in their country's representative that then goes into and panels all across the world vote. And I knew that they didn't stand a chance because it wasn't like any song that had ever been there. It was too happy. They were wearing stupid bright clothes. And during the show, I was not watching. I was talking to a friend behind me and he said, I can't believe how many votes you've got already. And I thought he was kidding. And I turned around and Abba was like miles ahead of anything else.
Now, were you interested in them mainly because you lived near Waterloo in London, or?
No, God forbid. I
think that could be the secret of being a successful music publisher. You just like a good song, and so many people forget about it.
I still.
They care about the image, and they care about all this other crap. It's like, no, just write a good song, and the success will follow, even if you look goofy.
And it's interesting today. I mean, I was reading something that like, who's the most successful songwriter, at the beginning of this year anyway? And a guy called Louis Bell. I hadn't heard of him. You guys probably haven't heard of him. He's had more hits in the top 10 with, Post Malone and Wow and these other people never ask who the songwriters are. And like Spotify, I think only started about the beginning of this year to put a songwriter's name with a song anywhere. No one cares. And the one thing that worries me about a lot of music now, it's not so much the song, it's the production.
Yeah.
And the old English thing was a hit song is the one that your milkman, when he's delivering your milk in the morning, he's whistling that song.
I watch a channel on YouTube from a guy named Rick Beato. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but he does a lot of really interesting stuff regarding the music industry. And he's produced a number of different bands himself. He produced like Shinedown and what have you. And he interviews. I've seen him interview like Peter Frampton on his channel, and he gets very deep into music theory and what have you. And his perspective is that auto-tune is what's killing the new artists these days. It's the he recommends auto-tune for certain things, but he says that auto-tune in and of itself is what's destroying new musicians because they don't have to try hard anymore in studio to create a good song.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, again, to me, what you put with a good song is the emotion that goes with the song. And you're dead right. The emotion goes out of it. It's production. It's the feel. It's whatever's in there of effects and everything else. I like a clean sound that you know what they're singing about and why they're singing it, and they really care about what they're singing. How many people really care about what they're singing? And to me, it's just like wallpaper. It's just a lot of it is straight line. Hey, we're singing another song and we hope you like the hook, without delving into it. I mean, a girl, which is the only girl I manage, and I said I'd never manage anyone again in my life, April Rose Gabrielli. And I love her to death. I mean, the first time I met her, someone dropped out of a charity concert I was doing and she stepped in. And I heard these songs and I was amazed. And over a couple of years, she just got so much into doing, every song has a meaning. Every song is just like raw emotion. And she just did a show at Bitter End. And actually, she did a show in Times Square. And the director of the TV show ran up to me afterwards. He said, I've never seen a control room in all my years stand and applaud a singer after that.
Wow, that's
and
significant.
The difference was everyone else was miming to track. She refused. She sang live to track because the song meant something to her.
So she's kind of a throwback then, because you don't really see those kind of artists anymore. You said her name is April Rose Gabrielli, and she's the only person you manage.
Well, yeah, I managed her and Randy Edelman for 400 years, but he and I have been together for 40 years.
Oh, we had Randy on our show a few months ago.
Yeah,
I liked him.
he's fun. It depends on what your sense of humor is.
We had the right sense of humor, I think. We
Yeah.
enjoyed him.
That was good.
He actually got me to buy a book about the Panama Canal, which is, I don't know.
Oh, that's the big project, right?
I haven't done that one in a while. But anyway, getting into like what you're currently doing now, you're the CEO of a company called MD25, as well as you're also with like Allied Artists Music Group, and your fingers in a lot of different pies apparently.
I get bored. No,
it's like you should be retired by now. So
no, I don't know what I do. I watch people retire and die. I just like, like I have too much fun. People still laugh. My kids, I go to more clubs than used to than my kids do. It's like, I love music. I like seeing the new, I love sort of surprising people when I'll come back and say, did you know about, and I'll go, how did you know about them? Because I saw them and met them the other night. And no, I just love the business, and my friends get smaller and smaller of the people I trust, if you like. But the clients, I call them out there, is I like to put teams together that can work together, because then it makes a lot of sense, because everyone has their sweet spots. And if you work with a company, you know what they're doing, you can put it to the company that what they're doing, it somehow makes sense, and it's a lot of fun doing it.
So what would you say your actual superpower is? Because obviously you've been all over the spectrum musically in the music business.
Serious. I think it's being in the right place at the right time. And
so you're like, networking is like your superpower, basically.
Yeah, I like people overall. Mm-hmm. And if I like a person, I'll listen to them and I'll see what they've got to say, and I'll help them if I can. And sometimes you don't get a thank you, but it's amazing how many times you help someone, and a few years later they come and say, I have this great project, I only want to do it with you, which happened just about a month ago. A young guy was trying to get in the film industry, and there's nothing, I introduced him around, he managed to produce a couple of things, he has a whole new project, and it's like, I won't produce it with anyone but you, this new project he's doing. And it's like, I said, no, you don't have to do that. And it's like, I have to do it. He said, you don't understand, because I wouldn't have been in the industry. And it was something, someone I met at a charity event, and we just got talking, and he was going totally the wrong direction on what he was trying to do. And I just introduced it to some people. Sometimes I have fights with my wife because, I can't get up in the morning and distrust the world. I have to believe the world is rosy and everyone's wonderful. And the reverse is, my people I represent, I'll kill for them. It's like this alter ego. Me, my line is now, I'm getting old. If you want to rip me off, do it really quickly, because I haven't got the time.
I got a few minutes left.
John, this might be controversial. Oh, go, Brendan.
I was going to say, so you brought up an interesting point about being lucky, and luck is an interesting concept. My question is, obviously there was something about these various bands that went on to become huge hits that you recognized in them. What do you think it was? Was it just it turned you on, or there was some...
Because Brendan is wondering about your choice of signing yes, is basically where this is coming from.
Oh, stop. No, it's not.
With Rick today. I mean, we've got a series on TV, which is fun, called Rick's Place, spelled P-L-A-I-C. There's the fish, which is like a Monty Python meets Daryl's Place. So,
Rick Wakeman's a funny guy. I've seen a number of interviews with him. So yeah,
he's wonderful after all these years. He's one of the greatest keyboard players I met. So I have to be careful saying that, because Randy's pretty good as well. But multi-keyboard players has that. But no, I think it's a uniqueness. Like with Sabbath, 3 people putting out that wall of sound without all the technology you have today and not being distorted is pretty wild. I mean, and I think the record, someone told me the other week, their records still sell about today what they did back then, their first albums.
What was the first song you heard by them, John? Do you remember the first time very first song?
No, I really...
Did you know them as Earth or as Black Sabbath? Which one, were you the one who got them to change their name?
No, it was Black Sabbath.
Okay.
And the fun thing is when you think of it, we'd be doing like a concert in the Forum or something, and Bill would run and call the farm in Warwickshire and say, how are the pigs doing? Are they farrowed yet?
Is that the drummer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like you imagine that, thousands of people, superstars. How are the pigs doing? Are they fired yet? It's like, and so it was fun back there. Yeah,
I did not know the drummer of Sabbath was a pig farmer.
I didn't either.
Well, they all came from the Midlands. They all came from Warwickshire, and that's why. I mean, one of the greatest. I was telling you about my Jag. Ozzy got one of those first thing, and he tested it out by driving across a plowed field to see how far it could get.
What a hillbilly!
Or he moved away and left it. It's like.
So who knew Ozzy was a redneck?
Yeah.
So did you have to deal with when Black Sabbath ever misbehaved? Like, did you have to be the guy who they call like, they trashed the hotel room? What are you gonna do about it?
A lot. I mean, there's a lot of stories which I can never ever tell. I mean,
Oh, come on.
a quick fun one is that I made the mistake. I had a house in LA and I let them stay for a weekend because they were only in town for 2 or 3 days. I came back and I forget whose birthday it was. It was one of their birthdays. Ozzy had chased him around the house with a can of blue spray paint. And all the white walls were, I mean,
Oh my God.
they paid for it, but it was like, you can imagine, it was like, oh my God.
But you were still relatively young at the time too, so you were probably okay.
But they were a step for like, I lost my jeans one morning. I'm trying to he'd put them in the deep freeze. And when breakfast, he stood them by the table because we had a long deep freeze. He stood them by the table.
He put your pants in the freezer?
Yeah. Just, I don't know.
You weren't still in them, were you?
No, it's the wonder. But no, and then you see what's still one of my favorite bands that never went anywhere was Gentle Giant.
They were like a pretty big. They still have a pretty big following.
East Coast, not West Coast. It was very weird. But musicianship-wise, they were incredible. I mean, their songs were so intricate, and so if you think of it, every one of the bands has got something totally different which hadn't been there before.
Now, were you the one who signed Jethro Tull, or is that somebody else?
No, nothing to do with him.
Okay, so, just because I know that Tony Iommi from Sabbath was in Jethro Tull for a brief period of time.
Yeah.
And so I thought it might have been right around that time.
John, you probably noticed because of the YouTube thing and the young kids, if you will. There's like I hear the name Gentle Giant bandied about by these young hipster kids now. It's like the good stuff will last thanks to YouTube. And there's kids who like love that shit now. They're like, Gentle Giant.
The amazing thing is they're actually playing it. They're actually doing it, which is like astounding. I know it's astounding to Derek and the guys anyway, because Derek's in New York and we're pals still. I mean, that's the nice thing. I've stayed friends with virtually everyone over years, which is fun as well. So I sort of made the right choices from a friendship standpoint as well, which is nice.
Now, was it true that Abba couldn't speak English at all and they just did phonetically their lyrics? Is that true?
Very bad English, to be very, very bad. Stig used to obviously do most of their talking, but when I used to go out there each month to see, because in those days, what's the next single? It was single, single, single. And so I used to do listening. And no, it was both basically the meetings were with Stig all the time.
They must rehearse the songs over and over again to have, because their accent is barely detectable in their songs.
Yeah, that's always amazed me with a lot of people in a lot of different countries. It's, you'll have an American song, and like in the Philippines, I was hearing things like we're perfect American or English, depending on what the song was. They start talking to you and you can hardly understand what they're saying. It's an interesting, I guess, it's like hearing another language almost, I guess. So when they hear that song, they sing it exactly with the same intonations and everything.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like when people who stutter are able to sing and without a stutter, it's like something shifts in terms of how their brainwaves.
I think I've heard a theory about that, is that like the rest of the world grows up watching American entertainment and listening to American songs for the past 50 years. So they kind of know what English sounds like. So they can do us way better than we can do them.
He said
English.
English.
I mean, look at these Japanese acts. The Japanese acts sing perfect English. They don't speak a word.
Although, with the lead singer of the Scorpions, you could definitely tell he's got a German accent when he sings in English. So sometimes
I'm working with Bonfire right now, which is another old German band, and really thick German. Yeah.
Which makes it for a much more interesting soundscape whenever you're recording people with the thick accents as they're singing.
Yeah.
As bringing Jethro Tull back into it for a minute, I saw an interview with Ian Anderson where he was commenting on how Elton John would do this thing where he would sing with an American accent, which he never understood. It's like, why aren't you just singing normally? So I don't know if you detect that with a lot of different artists or not.
Not so much nowadays, because back in there, it had to be American to get a hit. If you think about it, all the hit American songs were being covered by the British acts, which became stars, and no one ever remembered. I forget what it was. We were in the car the other day, and there's this song from years ago with an American act I'd never heard of, but we knew it was Dusty Springfield that had the hit in England with it, which is very odd, but it's true. It used to happen a lot more back then, but I don't think it matters so much now, because you have to be quirky and have whatever you want as an accent.
I read somewhere that a music critic who wasn't even that impressed with punk rock when it came out said that the one thing about the Sex Pistols was, for the first time, an English act was singing with an English accent. He was like, wow, they sound English.
And
They don't sound American.
The Bay City Rollers as well, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Bay City Rollers were really English with a total Cockney accent on it. There were a few back then that were doing it. Yeah. The funny thing with Elton, when he was Reggie, he was a keyboard player for some of Jimmy's productions, which is weird.
For Fifth Dimension, or with Glenn Campbell, he was a keyboard player.
That was with Thelma Houston.
Okay.
So yeah, he was Reggie back then. So
I think he should go back to being Reggie.
It would just to shock the world. It would be fun.
Yeah, no, that would be like the new incarnation of Elton John. He's like, no, just call me Reggie now.
It'd be like John Cougar going back.
And then he could tour with the Archies, and then
oh god,
that's my Reggie comic
and the
book
Veronicas
callback, right?
Oh,
as well as Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So right now, do you have any major productions going on?
On 9/11, I'm producing for Soho Johnny, who you probably know about. We're doing a whole charity concert for what's it called? Oh God, for Operation. I should have remembered. Operation Warrior Shield.
Warrior Shield.
It's amazing. They're the guys that train the dogs for wounded veterans. And it's brilliant. They do them all, some can open a fridge and get them food out. It's amazing how they train these animals. So it's in Manhattan at Rummy, RUMI, on 9/11. I think it's the only one. It's Fashion Week as well. So it's going to be like a celebration as well. There's going to be people on there. There's one girl singer who lost her mother at 9/11 as well. So there'll be a little, actually Brandon's going to be on there as well, doing some patriotic stuff. So it's going to be a celebration and a memorial at the same time. It should be a very interesting evening, the mix.
And where can people tune in or watch this? Is it?
Well, it's the best place to go is sohojohnny.com. All one word.
Okay.
sohojohnny.com. And all the information's on there. You can buy tickets, you can find the streaming info and everything else.
So this is actually happening in a little less than 2 weeks.
That's right. The panic is on.
So you said it has to do with Fashion Week. Does this mean that you're going to be dressing in like haute couture or something? Like, do you get like one of those shirts that's see-through and they'll get to see John Velasco's nipples or something?
Is Soho Johnny going to make you wear a crazy hat?
Oh, please. I mean, it's I'd probably a different color t-shirt. I'm always the one in the background. Eileen tries to push me on red carpets and stuff. It's like, no, or I disappear. They got away actually with having a birthday celebration this year, but people have tried to do that before and I've actually walked out on them. Someone said many years ago, it was with the Fifth Dimension and Simone, it was like, we want to take you out on the birthday. I said, that's fine. It was in LA and I'll never forget it. We went to this restaurant and I saw them whisper in a corner after the main course and I went to the bathroom and never came back. I was having phone calls and I'd say, where are you? I said, I'm back in my apartment. It was like, but we were going to do, I went, I know, that's why I'm back in my apartment. I told you.
So it's interesting that your career started in the theater. So when you say started in the theater, were you backstage as opposed to on stage?
In weekly rep, you have to do everything, which is
okay.
Strange. You have to act, you have to do backstage, you have to do props, you have to do paint scenery, you have to do everything. I found out I knew ahead in the first 2 days, I hated being on stage. It was like painful. I used to not sleep. So they put me in like a walk-on where I'd walk along the back like Hitchcock and out the other side. So it was, but that's where I learned stage management. And that's why the next thing I went to was Chichester Festival Theatre, which is a big festival every year where major directors and the biggest stars from John Gielgud, they appear. And they just do two plays, which was like a rest. And they do them. I do one, the other company does the other. And I was lucky again. The director of that was the guy that his next thing was going to be at Drury Lane, and he took me with him to run the show.
And you're like, thank God, I don't have to act anymore.
Well, no, after I said that was the one thing in my brain before I left Weekly Breakfast. You'll never do this again.
What years was this in the early 70s?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever work with Mike Leigh, the famous theatrical and movie director from England? Mike Leigh, or is it Lee or Lee?
You're saying Mike Leigh, like he's kind of like a Mike. You're making him an adverb, Greg?
I'm sorry to be indulgent, but I just discovered this guy and he's so amazing. I was just curious if you know him and if you had any tales of him.
No,
we can move on. Sorry.
I'll go and look it up. No.
Yeah, let's move on. Mike Leigh is, I don't know who that is.
It's basically Greg creating an adverb out of the name Mike.
No, it's Bruce Lee's brother.
Yes.
The great Kung Fu in England.
Bruce Lee's brother.
The Kung Fu Englishman.
It was spelled Leigh. I think it's Lee or Lay. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, that's Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So you have this expanse of bands, amazing bands that you've signed and managed. If you had to pick a favorite, who would it be? I know that's a tough one.
It's really tough because they're
favorite
different.
Based upon your own musical tastes.
Yeah.
You know, that's the trouble. I'm so eclectic in my taste. I mean, if you want for fun times, it was when I managed Tommy Boyce and Davy Jones. That was really fun.
Oh yeah,
it was those days, and it was hilarious. And there's a lot of stories again I can never tell, but it was just fun, happiness, and everything else. Tina Turner, from a sheer like a friendship and a work ethic, she was stunning. I mean, incredible. Her work was amazing.
Was this Tina solo or Tina with Ike?
No, Tina. Okay. I took Tina at the point they split up. We moved to Midlands, took all her credit cards away, and built her up again.
Oh, yeah, you were that guy. I saw the documentary. Okay, now I know. Got it.
So it was basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And, then, if you like, as just really amazing talent, and the sad thing that was a lot of it was wasted was Marvin Gaye.
Yeah, very wasted.
I love Marvin Gaye, but we used to have toe-to-toe rows. I mean, toe-to-toe rows. It was like, you don't have any respect for me. I have zero respect for you because you're not doing what you should be doing. You're like the most talented people in the world, and you keep checking out.
Wow.
And so it used to really infuriate me because just sheer talent, charisma on stage, everything. He was just amazing. So, that's why I know it's a multi-leveled answer.
No, it's fine. That makes sense.
It's really, and again, band-wise, fun, Sabbath. Seriousness, Gentle Giant. It's and showmanship, yes. I mean, I think that was really what I did. No one had, Rick particularly, no one had looked like that. I mean, it's a funny Rick story. We were doing a big show. Actually, it was the Forum in LA. And before everyone in those days were on microbiotic diets, apart from Rick. So he and I borrowed a roadie's car. We drove through the crowds to a nearby bar. And we had steak and beer and stuff. And all the time we're sitting there, there's these loud remarks from people going to the show, like, look at that idiot over there trying to look like Rick Wakeman. And, it was wonderful. We're sitting there like, carry on, guys. And we drove through the crowds back. And Rick actually said something on stage like, it was great meeting you guys back in the bar. Because it was just wonderful, because obviously there's no way that Rick was sitting in that bar with the show going to start in an hour's time.
Right.
Well, I liked how it was just the two of you eating meat, so and everybody else was eating healthy in the band.
They were all super healthy.
Bleacher,
yeah, yeah. So it was. So it was a really.
Well, Rick's like a big guy, and everybody else is like tiny people, I think, and yes.
That's right. But yeah, and so
well, this does bring us to the halfway mark, where we're going to be addressing our client for the day, and our client for today is Hinges, Bottles, and Other Miracles. And I know you might have to leave it to talk with your grandson, but I was wondering if you know of any particular overlooked inventions in the music business that don't get enough credit, that like revolutionize things within music for you personally.
Auto-tuning.
The Mellotron.
Now, what exactly is a Mellotron?
The Mellotron was the amazing miracle that happened when some clever person put a keyboard together with actual tapes in there of different sounds and different clips.
Like Paul McCartney used to play with?
Yeah, so you could play it, you could press a button and sound like an organ, you could press a button. It was incredibly complex. It was called the Mellotron. And it really, it was a magic machine that everyone had to see. And no one knows about it now. But for a moment in the history of the music, the Mellotron was huge.
So it had like its day for about a year or two.
Yeah, because then people realized, yeah, this is a great idea, and we can make it better by putting circuit boards in.
So that's how synthesizers came about, was because it was like the step before the synthesizer was the Mellotron?
Yeah, it was the first time someone tried to put samples and things into an actual keyboard, as far as
So was the Mellotron after the Moog?
No, far before that. Moog was that's electronics.
Okay.
That was before people could do the sounds electronically. So like I say, it was virtually tapes inside a machine, little boxes of tapes that would spin, and it's an incredible invention. Yeah, you just check it out, because it was weird. I can remember when I first went to a studio, and actually the studio that it was first in was this really nice little guy who came up with a real stupid thing. He came up with amplifiers painted orange. And we used to say, Cliff, it's a great sounding amplifier, but what band in the world is going to go, we'll use an orange colored amplifier?
Are you talking about Orange Crates?
Yeah. Talking about the Orange, the company.
The company, Orange.
Yeah, they're great.
Everyone now, if you can get your hands on one of the old original, you're a hero. You can't get, but we used to, Cliff Cooper, really sweet guy, lovely chap. He had a little studio at the back of his garage, and he used to make these little amplifiers. So it was hilarious.
Wow.
So,
and he just colored them orange, and that was his shtick. Huh?
Yeah, and we
It was the branding.
But I mean, the thing itself was amazing, because he was an electronics guy. That's why he had a Mellotron in his studio. But he didn't. But we said, this is such a great amp, but why is it orange? Can you imagine? In those days, it had to be cool and black.
Because you didn't want it to like overshadow the people on the stage, I guess. You didn't want it to. So that's why the roadies are always wearing black, so you can only see their heads floating across the stage.
Yeah, but they make sure they spend enough on stage so people see who they are, right?
And then you have people like Rush, who then put washers and dryers on stage in their later days, and it just changes everything. And what's the band that you really wanted that got away, that somebody else took from you?
Queen.
So you had an opportunity to sign Queen?
Virtually everyone in the industry did. This guy called Jack Nelson was shopping them around. It was probably one of the most incredible things I heard, the tapes he was playing. I'd call around, and everyone was going, oh, this is like a fantastic band. Everyone loved them to death. But no one could sign them. He was asking at that time, and I'm being conservative, at least 20 times what any band had ever got for an advance. And we're all, if you like, talking to me saying, we really want this band, but there's no way we could ever justify this. And a friend of mine, and I can't tell you the company he was working for, knew he was about to be fired. So he signed them. So to totally screw up the company. And he was fired, but
and he made the company more profits probably than anything.
That's precisely the
exact opposite happened.
Wow.
And that's how they got signed. But no, I mean, I wish I could have signed them, because like everyone else. The minute you hear it, it was so different. Again, I tell you, I love different things, and it was different. It was unique. It was something that I had never heard before. No one.
Well, you
had.
totally missed out not signing the Weird Love Makers because they were going to be big.
Oh, okay. I should look them up then quick.
You'll find Greg's face associated with them, actually.
Yeah, don't look it up. You'll be very disappointed.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, I totally went off the client like almost
Yeah.
immediately.
Hey, John, do me a favor and kiss your grandchild for us.
What?
Give him
What
a
did you
kiss on
say,
the cheek.
Greg?
Kiss your grandchild for us. Give him a
Oh,
kiss
for
from
us.
us.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I do have to rush off.
Yeah.
I was telling the guys, my son gave me my son and daughter-in-law, they gave me another grandchild yesterday. So I have to zip away into
Yeah.
Well, hopefully
Thanks for
the
your time.
grandchild is associated with you instead of they're just giving you random grandchildren from who knows where.
I say it was pretty easy for me. It's just like, okay, it's there. Good. I'm there.
Oh, I got a new one. They just showed up today. Well, thank you very much, honey. Is there anything in particular you want to promote or a website that you want to plug before you go?
I'd love you to look at sohojohnny.com just because of the 9/11 show. And please look at April Rose Gabrielli, because I tell you, she's rising up the charts. The airplays have gone, I think she's number 26 on the airplay charts, right? She's just going from nowhere. She's been performing for years, but backing up with other bands, being the keyboard player of different bands.
What is her website? Do you know?
April Gabrielli.
Gabrielli. All right. Everybody figure out how to spell that.
If you're Italian, you'll be there. But
Well, I mean, Matt, on the YouTube version of this, you can put that probably in the description. Yeah.
Yeah, I could do that.
yeah, all right, she's the same, April Rose Gabrielli on everything. But
Or just look her up on YouTube. She's climbed up the charts. She's out there.
And the song's called "Do You," and it's a video and a song, and it's really special. I will leave you with that. I wish I could sing it for you, but I can't.
Well, greatly appreciate you having you on, John. It's an honor to have somebody who's an absolute music legend with us today. So even though you're an unknown legend, the fact is your career is legendary. If people were to look at it, they'd go, "This is pretty spectacular." So
kudos to you, Mr. Velasco.
I mean, obviously your
Yes.
humility is quite large as well. So he's the most humble of all music publishers. Maybe we'll just put that out there as opposed to the greatest.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks.
John.
Thanks for being here.
Bye.
All right, Hinges, bottles, and other miracles. That is our client. I'm glad he brought up the Mellotron. Never would have thought of that one as a potential miracle that has not been recognized in its prime. So, Hinges, I think, are definitely things that are unappreciated in terms of inventions. You know,
So before
they're
Hinges,
taken for granted.
Before Hinges, were there doors? Did they have a shittier door?
I don't
What was
know.
the version of a door?
I'm like, they would have to have a door. Maybe they just like
Beads?
something you lifted out and put to the side, and then
I
you had to
guess,
put it
yeah.
back in again. You
Yeah.
know?
You could have had a sliding door.
Yeah, like in Japan.
That would be a different invention.
That's a different invention.
But that was
I'm
before
saying
Hinges, I bet.
that's not a hinge. It's a. It could be
It's like a
it could
tongue
be-
and groove.
Yeah, it could be what you're talking about, except it had a kind of place to go. You weren't just like being a caveman and lifting it up and leaning against the wall and then picking it up and putting it back. You could have slid it into some slot.
Actually, that makes me think about like the very first door was created. So like you are a caveman and you're in the cave and you're freezing your butt off because there's this wind come in and you're like, okay, so what do you do when
You
that's
rolled
happening?
a boulder over the hole of the cave.
That's a
every
whole
night?
different religious connotation. But
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, obviously at that point you would have just taken something and then put it over the hole of the cave and went, good.
is that the noise they would make?
Yeah, no, that's totally,
good.
yeah.
that was Neolithic for door closed.
Shut
the door. Shut the front door. Go.
Well, maybe they would hang like a blanket or something in front of
Furs.
it, but then they would
We
have to create a
haven't-
blanket, or I
Yeah,
guess
we
a
haven't
fur.
furs.
We haven't.
Maybe they
even,
just have the
like I said-
carcass of a giant bear or an elephant that
A
they,
saber tooth pelt.
and it'd be something they could actually gnaw on during the course of their stay in the cave.
There'd still be chunks of flesh on the pelt.
It's like little pieces. Like, okay, but it's keeping me warm too. So until it actually goes bad, and then they'll have to find a new cave because it stinks too much for them to stay in that particular.
When was
cave.
the Hinge invented, Matt? Did you look this up?
I have no idea when the Hinge was invented.
I can't even imagine. It must be a long time ago.
No, that was just yesterday.
No, I think they had doors for
The actual beginning of the Hinge is unknown, but the first traces of the Hinge date back to 1600 BC.
what?
Discoveries in Hattusa, an ancient eastern capital, showed early forms of hinges being used to make massive objects mobile. Uh-oh, we've lost
Wow.
Brendan. Is Brendan still here?
He once had his finger caught in a hinge. He's a little triggered right now, I think.
I think he must be doing what you normally do when you disappear, which is probably going to the bathroom or something.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you don't think about how great the hinge is. And earlier you suggested maybe talking about the aglet.
The aglet.
The aglet's aglet. The aglet's
Aglet.
amazing. Like, how did you tie your shoes before then if they came out? It must have been like,
Well, you just didn't have holes that were that tiny, I think. You had
Is that
bigger
what it
holes
was?
to tie the laces through.
No.
But yeah, or
But
they
even
probably
the-
licked them.
Yeah, but
So those who
I know,
don't know, an
that's not-
aglet is the little plastic piece that is at the end of a shoelace. So that is an invention. Somebody invented that.
which makes it way easier to tie your shoe because I actually sometimes don't have money to buy shoelaces, so I have like old shoelaces that have been ripped in half.
Yeah, but then you
So I
use
don't-
them to keep your glasses on your head. You don't even have
I
any
do that
aglets on
too.
the shoelaces that are on your glasses.
I don't need aglets for my use. There's no aglets on here, but I've had shoes where I still have to do that. I have to lick it and be like shove it through.
You've got
It's
actually a
normal.
good T-shirt slogan just there, Greg. I don't need aglets.
You think that would sell?
It would. That'd be a big one. I don't need
Take-
aglets.
Take that, the man. I don't
Fucking
need your
aglets.
aglets.
Damn aglet entrepreneurs
Fuck you,
out there.
man.
Multicolored aglets, different flavor
The
aglets.
big aglet concerns out there trying to dominate our lives.
The
I
Great
don't need
Aglet
you.
Conspiracy that's behind
Yeah.
everything in the world right now. The Freemason aglet.
Aglet. I just like you here saying aglet. It sounds funny saying aglet.
It kind of makes you think it's like a small animal, like there's piglets, so an aglet should be like the smaller version of some particular. Maybe it's a smaller version of an aardvark is an aglet.
You know, I
Like
know
a
it's
baby
obnoxious.
aardvark is an aglet.
I keep calling stuff back, but we had an invention show, our second show or first. We talked about inventions.
I think it was
and
our
I got the
second one.
I got the concept wrong. But to me, the best invention that nobody really acts like is that important is just recording music. That is still that's the main reason I don't want to live 400 years ago. Like, you can't just listen to music when you want to, any song. Recording music to me is
Well, I think
not
recorded
appreciated.
anything that could only be seen with the senses or experienced with the senses outside of something created
Yeah.
that has been put onto a different medium. I
Yeah,
find
like
kind of amazing.
photographs or
Well,
film.
pictures, for example,
Yeah,
like something
photographs,
that
yeah.
you see somebody was able to translate onto a piece of paper
Yeah.
somehow, which
Yeah.
to me is, I think, even more kind of amazing than recording of music.
But I could live without that. I could live without even movies. Without music, it's like that to me is just like I'd pick that over all the other
There would
recorded
still be
arts.
music without recordings.
Yeah, but it would be really hard. You'd have to pay musicians if you don't have any talent to come to your house. It's like having music recorded. I can be this poor guy who has
Wait,
8
Brendan is
million
pointing at his
songs.
phone for some reason.
I'm just saying, you guys are talking about like music recording, like that's super fucking amazing. That's not that challenging.
I think
This-
it is.
This fucking thing,
And everybody
that
who's
is
listening and not
appreciated, though.
watching this on YouTube he's referring to his nostrils.
But people do appreciate
Thi-
it.
okay, shut up.
It does get lauded.
This iPhone, this
Yes.
smartphone is an amazing device. It is practically turning human beings into cyborgs. We're
But it's
just
not unappreciated. Those are definitely appreciated. We're looking at like
No.
underappreciated, overlooked
are they?
inventions.
Are
Like
they?
aglets.
Are they?
Yeah.
I don't think they're. I think
Take
they're
away somebody's
underappreciated.
hinge, and they won't feel the same way as taking away their phone.
I
One
just buy
requires
their
a lot
Hinge.
more attention.
I go to Ace Hardware and buy a really cheap hinge and fix my door. But your iPhone, you're kind of lost without. I know when my phone dies, I have no computer. I can't call anyone. I can't find out where to get my phone fixed. I'm fucked.
You can't
If my
find where
phone
to get-
dies, yeah, because I don't have a computer.
You'd
or
have
a
to
phone
talk to a
line.
neighbor.
I don't have a landline.
I'm
I
just
know.
saying.
Maybe
I'm saying-
neighbors are the most overlooked invention.
I'm saying underappreciated has something to do with your age. Like we're all being like 50-year-old going, hey, the recording device is amazing. You can hear sound from and that's
We're not that
underappreciated.
old. I mean, that came about like over
I know.
100 years
That's-
ago.
That's why I'm saying, like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? When this cell phone is amazing, and right now you couldn't give a shit that it's so amazing. You're just like, oh my god, my fucking service. I can't get my emails. Fucker! It's underappreciated how fucking astoundingly, awesomely magic this cell phone thing is.
Do you guys remember the simple thing of our generation? Of like, do you remember getting lost? That was a thing. Getting lost. Like,
People still get lost, Greg.
Remember
you can't get
Maps
lost anymore. It's impossible to get lost.
No,
Unless you have a smartphone.
I remember I'm talking to my adult children recently about the power of maps. Like back in the old days,
Behold the power of maps.
we would have to unfold these fucking things and then try to figure it out. And somebody would have to be doing that shit while somebody was driving. And oh my
Well, no, you
God.
just did it on your steering wheel. That's how I did it.
Okay,
Depending
well,
upon the
maps
map,
tell you.
here's the, like how old I am. It's like I had appreciation for different brands of maps too. It's like there was the Thomas Guide, which I hated, and then there were the Macmillan maps, which were great for driving
some
with
were better
because they
than
had the
others.
big pages, whereas the Thomas Guide you had to flip to all these other freaking extra pages because they made the pages too small, so you couldn't really find the thing as easy as you could on the others. But anyway, yeah. But maps, if everything goes to hell, everybody's screwed if they're trying to get to somewhere. Like that's the thing they never talk about in these zombie apocalypse things is the fact that they don't have any maps to find the next town anymore because it's all on their phone.
Does anybody have maps anymore? Do you guys have maps in your
I think they still sell them at 7-Eleven.
garage?
I think
I'm
they
saying
still.
you.
I don't know. I don't have a map. Well, I
You
might
throw
have it
them
in a
all away.
box somewhere, but
That's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a map in my car. If my GPS broke down and I was in the middle of fucking someplace I didn't know, I'd be fucked.
if the
I don't
phone
know what
died,
I
I could
do.
still do it with my car's GPS, but not with if the phone died.
Yeah,
Car-
same difference.
Well, no, the difference is with the car, it's internal with the car. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
get a cell signal. I know.
Yeah.
So
I
at
don't
least
have
the
a-
GPS I have.
I don't have a cool car like that. I have an old car.
Yeah, well, mine's
What's a
like,
car?
7 years old too. So.
Well, my car is 12 years old, so
Oh,
it
okay.
doesn't come with that.
Yeah, I don't have a cool car either.
You don't know
You
how to
have-
drive. You don't even know how to
Yeah,
drive, Greg.
you-
For you, the invention is your feet.
Yeah, thank God they
overlooked.
invented walking. Great invention.
Actually, you have a bicycle. So, what is a bicycle like an underappreciated invention these days?
It's good to have, but it's not that great.
Yeah,
You know what's I think an unappreciated invention is glasses.
yeah.
All
I
three of
appreciate
us-
mine
I
every
know,
frickin' day.
I know, but all three of us wear glasses and appreciate them, sure. But do we really appreciate them?
I mean, like take them out to dinner and show them how much we care.
Yeah. Like,
Give them a reach around.
rub one out with them.
Here,
Yeah, I
let me show you something. Glasses. I'm gonna do something special for you.
I'm just saying that glasses are amazing and that somebody figured that out. I guess maybe I don't understand the client, but to me, somebody who went, oh, and then and made
After they went, "Urgh."
and then made glasses, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, now I can see. That's a fucking miracle.
A lot of these things are miracles in terms of how they were created. It's like, how
But
did somebody know to do that with glass? With
But
sand?
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
a hinge is not a miracle. I can figure out a hinge.
What?
If you were a metal worker, can you work metal? You can make the hinge.
When's the last thing that you figured out that nobody else had figured out to solve a problem in your life?
He invented Spotify, Brendan.
No, that's not my point. You're both are getting off the point. The point is that glasses are a miracle. A hinge is something a caveman can figure out. That's
What?
How can a caveman figure out a hinge?
Okay, so Matt, Google when hinges were invented.
He did.
I did.
And it was what?
It was 1600 BC.
Okay. When were glasses invented?
That's
18
probably in the 1700s, I would think.
Something
Yeah,
like
Ben
that.
Franklin had them. Duh.
Yeah. Duh.
You know.
Duh. So that's
Oh,
my
God.
But they were
point.
probably invented around 1285. The
What?
various sources suggest an earlier origin.
So my
Glasses?
point is a caveman did invent a hinge. Caveman did not invent glasses.
The Romans first discovered the ability to use glass to enhance their ability to see small things, apparently.
Like a magnifying glass.
So the Romans
perhaps?
may have come across it by accident. You know. So
Right.
okay, so you're looking at accidental inventions, maybe, as opposed to deliberately created
Well, they
inventions.
become inventions.
Well,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I can see Brendan's point in the sense that, the hinge was created to solve a problem of opening and closing a door, maybe. Maybe that's what it was used for. I don't know. Whereas glasses, somebody would have to accidentally find out that sand could be turned into glass, for one thing. And then that there's different gradations of it that can affect how you see through it. And that would be like a different miracle that would have to occur, a different discovery that would have to occur.
Right.
Right.
I'm just saying that that's like levels of like what the fuck figure out. Whereas a hinge, you're like, I have thing and I have to turn. And then I if I can make thing that turn, then that's super mechanical.
And
But
then he
to
said,
go like-
Wilma.
It wasn't
Yeah.
accidental.
Yeah, to go like, okay, you know what? We can make glass.
But it's
And
still
then it's
kind of
like-
a miracle device for somebody to have to be able to use whenever they first invented it, though. And like for
sure.
everybody else who didn't have that thing, suddenly it's like this world changer. It's like, wow, I don't
Sure.
have to roll the boulder in front of my cave anymore.
Yeah, you were the
I
most
can close
popular-
my hobbit hole.
You were the most popular Fred fucking Flintstone on Bedrock.
You were the
Lane.
Albert Einstein of
Sure.
Bedrock.
Of hinges.
Right. So I guess from an underappreciated perspective, I'm talking about underappreciated in the fact of how miracle bullshit it took to get to that point.
I think those
Right,
things are
which does come
appreciated,
back
though.
to Greg's point regarding recordings, though. So in photography, it's how did somebody think to, I'm
Yeah.
looking at this tree with my eyeballs. How could somebody go, all right, now I could transfer this image that I'm seeing onto a piece of paper, or the voice coming out of somebody's
I still
head
don't know how it works. I don't know
onto
how photography works.
a piece of vinyl or plastic or whatever.
Oh yeah. No,
You know.
if we got fucked and had to go back in time and try to figure all this shit out, we'd all die.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have any of this.
Except for the engineers. Those guys would know all the basics.
I don't know if
so.
photography works now. I have no idea. It's magic. It's sorcery to me. I don't understand what a camera does.
Right.
I don't get it.
And most people don't. I mean,
Yeah.
most people don't. Well,
I even
But we-
took a photography class, and I can't remember how that works. It's like I've developed photos with chemicals, and it's baffling to me.
well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like a digital guy. Like I understand computers and stuff. And this stupid cell phone thing is like, how the fuck? I don't even understand.
Well, even within your cell phone, there's so many underappreciated inventions inside of that cell phone.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
I
The
mean,
flashlight app.
You got a flashlight, you got a camera, you got a recording device. God, you got software, you got an older friend of mine refers to it as your pocket brain, which I thought was kind of funny. It's like,
Yeah.
Or are you going to look that up on your pocket brain? Because you do. You're like, oh, what the hell is that? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's
Now
not really a brain. It's kind of like calling an encyclopedia a brain, though. I mean, there's so many different things
I
that
call it the mother box.
the mother box
Yeah.
because
Mother
it
box.
birthed you.
Oh, there's a early 70s comic book by the king of comics, Jack Kirby, and it was science fictional. And they had this concept. It's very much like the cell phone. It's just this little box. For some reason, it would always ping. It would always go ping, ping, ping. And you could ask it anything.
That's
It had all the
racist.
world's-
That is so
it had all-
racist, Greg.
It had all the world's
What-
knowledge in it.
I missed
He
something.
invented
What was
the cell
race?
phone.
The
what was
ping
race-
ping part is the racist part.
Is that a slur? Ping? Hey, you
Yes,
fucking
yes,
ping.
it is. It's
You
racist
goddamn
against
ping, get out of my
racist
neighborhood.
against
No,
pandas.
no.
Yo,
No,
the
ching
ping.
chong, ching chong, ching chong. That's racist.
There you
Ping
go.
is not racist.
It's racist
Brent-
against pandas.
Bring the noise.
What the fuck does pandas have to do with ping?
Well, see, that's the problem, is that you don't know that. And so that's the bigger issue. That's the
You're
overlying
culturally
issue.
appropriating panda culture, Matt. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I think the fact that our pictures behind my shoulders are basically the same colors as pandas.
Hey guys, could I do a quick aside? You know, we talk sometimes about like cultural appropriation. All this
Got to be quick, though,
stuff.
Greg, because we have
It'll be
another
quick.
guest today.
I just saw Paul Simon from the 80s on Saturday Night Live, where I was just like, I don't really truck with this whole idea of cultural appropriation, but this is like it's him with 40 black guys on stage, and they're doing all the good singing, and he's just writing this crappy song over it, and he's the star. And I was just like, okay, I guess that's.
Are you talking
cultural
about
appropriation.
Diamonds on the Soles of Our Shoes with
Exactly.
Ladysmith Black Mambazo?
That's the song. Yes.
I don't know if that was
just like,
appropriation if they're the ones performing.
Yeah, but he's
How
singing the
is
song.
that-
And usually credit them. It just says Paul Simon. It doesn't say Paul Simon and Ladysmith Black Mambazo. It's just like they're his pips, like Gladys Knight had. He treats them like the pips. It's like, no, everyone's there to see. They're the beautiful part of the song.
How is that an invention that's underappreciated?
I'm
Greg?
sorry. I just said I was going on the side.
I'm just saying those people didn't have the opportunity to be on the stage on Saturday Night Live if it wasn't for Paul Simon.
This is true.
So, whatever.
Whatever
Okay,
is a
that's a
good like
tangent.
ending point, because again we're doing 2 episodes today,
Oh, it's
everybody.
fine.
I
so-
know. I'm well aware of this.
And our second guest, he's going to be showing up at about 10 after, quarter after, guys. So if you guys wanted to take a break right now, and like go use the bathroom or get something to drink
I
or
don't got to
something,
take a shit or anything, so I just need like a couple minutes to refresh my drink. That's
okay,
all I need.
and refresh your tuft of hair. You know, when my wife saw you on screen, Greg, she went, "Oh, a Cupid doll," because she couldn't tell it was a mohawk because of the way it's coming off the pointed top of your head.
Well, I told you my mom calls me a poopy doll because she has
Oh,
dementia.
that's right. I forgot about the
And
poopy
she
doll.
can't
thing.
remember what a Cupid doll is. She says, "You're my poopy doll." And I was her poopy doll.
You
when I
were
was a baby.
everybody's poopy doll, Greg.
Yeah, I pooped a lot when I was her little doll. I was a
Well,
little baby.
anyway, just to wrap this one up, we had John Velasco on, a music publisher to so many major artists. And our client today, briefly, we didn't get into a lot of it, but we got into a bit of it.
Bottles.
That was Hinges, Bottles, and Other Miracles here on the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker.
Your consultation with the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker has ended. You may pay your retainer at www.qsblaw.org. Please exit to the right of the water cooler and grab a candy from the front desk. We hope to see you again soon, but you need to leave now. I said leave. Why don't they ever listen? Get out! Get out!